Hey friends, before we jump into the story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and support the channel. It really means a lot. Thank you. My name is Danica, a 32-year-old fashion designer from Chicago, and the night before my wedding turned my world upside down. After nearly a year of planning the perfect ceremony, pouring my heart into crafting a dream gown, and building a future with my fiancé, Ethan, I believed nothing could shatter our moment. My younger sister, Vanessa, and I had a complicated history, marked by rivalry and unspoken resentments, but I trusted her enough to make her a bridesmaid. I never imagined the rehearsal dinner would unravel everything I thought I knew, exposing betrayals that cut deeper than I could have predicted. If you're reading this, drop a comment with where you're from. I'd love to connect. And if this story hits home, hit that like button and follow along as I share my journey through heartbreak, betrayal, and the strength I found within. Growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, I lived in Vanessa's shadow from the moment she was born, 3 years after me. She arrived with a charm that shifted our family's entire dynamic. Our mother, Lorraine, made no effort to hide her favoritism. Vanessa was the golden child, stunning, with a laugh that could disarm anyone. Her big blue eyes and cascading blonde hair were the talk of every family gathering, while I, with my quieter demeanor and darker features, faded into the background. "Danica, why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would sigh, adjusting Vanessa's perfect ponytail while my own efforts went unnoticed. "Vanessa just has that magic spark," she'd say, as if I were a defective bulb. Our father, Gerald, tried to balance things out, offering me kind words or an extra hug, but Mom's obsession with Vanessa always won out. To keep the peace, Dad often gave in to her demands, leaving me to learn early that my needs came second. One memory stands out sharply: my 9th birthday. I'd spent months begging for a bike with silver streamers, dreaming of racing through the neighborhood. Mom promised it was mine, but when the day arrived, I got a plain vanilla cake and a pair of sturdy sneakers I hadn't asked for. "We're saving for Vanessa's ballet recital costume," Mom explained, her tone final. 2 months later, Vanessa got a shiny new bike with glittery silver and purple streamers, though it wasn't even her birthday. When I pointed out the unfairness, Mom brushed me off. "Vanessa needed a boost after working so hard on her recital," she said, as if my disappointment didn't matter. That moment became a cornerstone of my childhood, a quiet wound that grew with every slight. As we hit our teenage years, the divide deepened. I threw myself into academics, excelling in school and earning a scholarship to a prestigious design institute in Chicago. Fashion was my escape, a world where I could create beauty and control my own narrative. Vanessa, meanwhile, ruled the social scene. Her natural beauty and outgoing personality made her the queen of our high school, with boys lining up at our door to ask her out, barely noticing I existed. "Your sister got the looks, but you've got the brains," our Aunt Pamela said at a family barbecue, thinking it was a compliment. I forced a smile, but inside, another piece of me cracked. While I worked late shifts at a diner and interned at local boutiques to fund my education, Vanessa drifted through community college, dabbling in photography, then modeling, then party planning, never committing to anything. Our parents bankrolled her through her 20s, excusing her lack of direction. "She's still finding herself," Mom would say when relatives raised eyebrows. "Not everyone's as focused as Danica." The pattern persisted into adulthood. When I landed my first major client, a boutique chain that carried my designs across the Midwest, Mom barely acknowledged it at our family dinner, instead gushing about Vanessa's new modeling headshots. When I saved for years to buy my first condo in Logan Square, Vanessa showed up with keys to a sleek downtown loft, the down payment quietly covered by our parents. Yet, through it all, I never stopped loving my sister. I saw glimpses of her vulnerability in rare, unguarded moments, away from Mom's influence. Once, as I helped her prep for a job interview, she looked at me with something like admiration. "You make everything look so easy, Danica," she said softly. "I wish I could get my act together like you." Those moments fueled my hope that we could one day have the sisterly bond I'd always craved. That hope led me to make what my best friend, Tara, later called my biggest mistake, asking Vanessa to be a bridesmaid. "Are you sure about this?" Tara asked, her brow furrowed. "Remember your college graduation party?" I did. Vanessa, tipsy on cheap wine, had given a speech about how I'd finally found something I was good at, since I'd never win a beauty contest. The room had gone quiet, and I'd laughed it off, but the sting lingered. Still, I convinced myself she'd matured. "She's my sister," I told Tara firmly. "She deserves a place in my wedding." I didn't make her maid of honor. That role went to Tara, who'd been my rock since high school, but I gave Vanessa a spot in the bridal party, hoping it would bridge the gap between us. Looking back, I see I was still chasing the approval and love I'd been denied as a child. "You'll regret this," Tara warned. "Some people never change." I met Ethan 3 years ago at a Chicago art gallery where I was showcasing my latest collection. He stood out immediately, not just for his classic good looks, with his warm brown eyes and easy smile, but for his genuine interest in my work. While other guests offered polite small talk, Ethan lingered, asking thoughtful questions about my inspiration. "The geometric lines in your jackets remind me of mid-century architecture," he said, tracing the seams of a tailored blazer. "It's bold yet balanced." An architect with a rising firm, his eye for structure and detail resonated with me. We swapped business cards, and within days, he invited me for coffee at a cozy spot in Wicker Park. That coffee stretched into dinner, then a late-night walk along Lake Michigan, where we talked about everything from our career ambitions to our favorite childhood books. Ethan came from a warm, close-knit family in Evanston, the kind I'd always envied. His parents, married for 35 years, still held hands at dinner. His 2 older brothers ribbed him constantly but clearly adored him. The first time I joined them for their Sunday pot roast, I felt a pang of longing for their easy laughter and genuine care. "Your family's amazing," I told Ethan on the drive back to the city. "They already love you," he replied, squeezing my hand. "Almost as much as I'm starting to." Our relationship blossomed naturally. We took weekend trips to the Wisconsin Dells, collaborated on a charity project blending fashion and sustainable architecture, and supported each other through life's ups and downs. When a client backed out of a major deal, Ethan brought me coffee and listened as I vented. When he lost a bid for a high-profile project, I created a space for him to process without judgment. 6 months in, I knew I was in love. By our 1-year anniversary, we were dreaming of a shared future, talking about where we'd live, the kind of home we'd build. At 18 months, he proposed during a sunset picnic in the Lincoln Park Conservatory, where we'd had our second date. "You make me want to build something permanent," he said, kneeling with a vintage emerald-cut ring he'd restored, knowing my love for timeless designs with a story. "A life, a home, a family, everything's better with you, Danica." I said yes through happy tears, believing I'd finally found the unconditional love I'd longed for. Introducing Ethan to my family brought old tensions roaring back. Dad was warm, engaging Ethan in long talks about urban design. Mom was polite but distant, her eyes appraising him like a piece of furniture she wasn't sure fit her decor. Vanessa, though, was the real warning sign. The moment Ethan walked into our parents' house, she transformed, her laugh louder, her gestures more animated. She positioned herself across from him at dinner, asking detailed questions about his projects and dropping hints about her latest gig, a modeling shoot for a local boutique. "The photographer said I have a face for billboards," she announced, her eyes flicking to Ethan. I noticed how she leaned forward when he spoke, how her hand grazed his when passing the salad. I told myself I was being paranoid, that this was just Vanessa craving attention as always. But her behavior grew bolder. She'd show up at our apartment unannounced, wearing outfits that hugged her figure, and started texting Ethan directly about family events. Once, I came home to find them laughing in the kitchen, Vanessa perched on the counter as Ethan chopped vegetables for dinner. "She needed a dress for an audition," he explained casually. "I told her to wait for you." When I asked him later about Vanessa's attention, he seemed genuinely puzzled. "She's just being friendly, Danica. She's your sister, I see her as family." I wanted to believe him. Ethan had never given me reason to doubt his loyalty, and I dismissed my unease as lingering insecurities from childhood. But at our engagement party, Vanessa's toast raised red flags. "My big sister's always been the serious one," she said, raising her champagne glass. "So it's amazing she found someone as fun and spontaneous as Ethan. They're like brains and charm." Guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the jab. Ethan squeezed my hand and whispered, "She means well." I nodded, but the doubt lingered. As wedding planning intensified, I threw myself into creating the perfect day. My greatest joy was designing my gown, a flowing A-line silhouette with hand-stitched embroidery that told the story of Ethan and me. Tiny skylines for his architectural passion, delicate waves for our lakefront walks, and miniature books for our shared love of literature. I worked on it late at night in my studio, keeping it locked in a garment bag to surprise everyone. But warning signs started piling up. Ethan began working late, blaming project deadlines. Vanessa, after months of indifference, became oddly invested in wedding details, asking about our honeymoon plans and the exact schedule. She'd call with suggestions for flowers or music, her enthusiasm feeling forced. I pushed down my growing unease, telling myself it was just wedding stress. "Everything's fine," I murmured, falling asleep next to Ethan, his back turned to me. 3 months before the wedding, Ethan's behavior shifted noticeably. He'd come home after 10 p.m., offering vague excuses about client demands. His usually prompt texts became delayed or unanswered. When we were together, he was distracted, checking his phone and angling it away from me. "Is everything okay at work?" I asked one night as he silenced a call during dinner, something he'd never done before. "Just a tough project," he said, avoiding my eyes. "The client keeps changing plans." I wanted to believe him, but his evasiveness was new. He'd always shared his work challenges openly, even asking for my input. Now he changed the subject whenever I pressed. Around the same time, Vanessa's attitude flipped. After showing zero interest in the wedding for months, she became almost obsessive, offering to help with everything from centerpieces to seating charts. "I want your day to be perfect," she insisted, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. She asked oddly specific questions about our honeymoon resort, the wedding night hotel, even the catering menu, details she had no reason to need. The first concrete red flag came when I found a string of texts between her and Ethan on his phone while he was in the shower. I'd never snooped before, but his phone kept buzzing, and Vanessa's name flashed repeatedly. The messages seemed innocent talk of a surprise for me, but their frequency, often late at night or during Ethan's work hours, set my stomach churning. When I mentioned it casually, he got defensive. "She's helping with something special," he said, grabbing his phone. "Don't ruin it." I apologized, feeling guilty, but the seed of doubt had taken root. A week later, I went to my tailor's shop in River North for a final dress fitting. The seamstress looked confused. "I thought you weren't coming until tomorrow," she said. "Your sister was here this morning, asking about the gown's measurements and fabrics. Said she was helping with the veil." A chill ran through me. I hadn't asked Vanessa to help with the veil, I'd finished it weeks ago. "What exactly did she want?" I asked. "She was curious about the sizing and embroidery details," the seamstress said. "Very charming girl, looks a lot like you but blonde." That evening, I called Tara, my voice shaking as I spilled my fears. "Am I being paranoid or is something off?" I asked. "Trust your instincts," she said carefully. "Have you noticed anything else?" I thought back. Ethan and Vanessa both skipping the same family dinner with flimsy excuses. Mom suddenly warming to Ethan after months of indifference. A brochure for a Door County resort in Ethan's car, a place we'd never discussed visiting. "I feel like I'm losing it," I admitted. "Maybe I'm projecting my old issues with Vanessa onto Ethan." Tara paused. "Or maybe your gut's trying to protect you. Keep your eyes open, and I'm here no matter what." For the next few weeks, I was on high alert, watching for signs. Ethan and I went through wedding motions, but a new tension simmered between us, unspoken. He kept his phone with him constantly, even taking it to the bathroom. Our intimate moments dwindled, he was always exhausted. Vanessa's involvement became obsessive. She called daily with trivial questions, crashed vendor meetings I hadn't invited her to, and seemed to know details I hadn't shared, like the exact shade of our table linens. The breaking point came a week before the wedding. I arrived at my studio to find the garment bag holding my dress gone. In a panic, I called the tailor, thinking I'd forgotten a pickup. "Your sister collected it yesterday," the manager said. "She had your written authorization for a final pressing and storage." My heart stopped. I hadn't written any authorization. "Where did she take it?" I asked. "To a storage facility to keep it pristine," the manager replied. "Very thoughtful." I hung up, my mind racing. Was Vanessa sabotaging me? Was Ethan involved? I called her straight to voicemail. Ethan answered after several rings, sounding rushed. Hey, can I call you back? I'm swamped. Where's my dress, Ethan? I demanded, a long pause. What do you mean, isn't it at the tailor's? Don't lie, I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. Vanessa took it with a forged note. Did you know? You're not making sense, he said, flustered. Why would she do that? We'll talk tonight. He hung up before I could respond. I drove to Vanessa's apartment in Wrigleyville. She wasn't there. I called my parents. Mom claimed she hadn't seen her. Dad sounded worried but clueless. Ethan stopped answering my texts. That night I barely slept, my mind spinning through possibilities. Was Vanessa planning a cruel prank? Was Ethan cheating? By morning, I convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was a mix-up, a misguided surprise. The rehearsal dinner was that evening. Everyone would be there, and the truth would come out. I clung to that hope, ignoring the knot in my stomach. The rehearsal was set for 5 p.m. at a historic garden venue in Evanston, its stone paths lined with blooming roses. I arrived, hands trembling, my heart heavy with dread. Most of the wedding party was there, but Ethan was missing and Vanessa wasn't answering. Dad hugged me tightly, sensing my unease. Mom, oddly calm, kept scanning the crowd. Where's Ethan? She asked. Late client meeting, I muttered, noticing his absence for the first time. Tara pulled me aside, her face etched with concern. You okay? You look like a ghost. I whispered about the missing dress and Vanessa's silence. Before she could respond, the coordinator suggested waiting for latecomers. 10 minutes stretched to 20, then 30. Guests whispered, their pitying glances burning my skin. The groom and a bridesmaid both absent. It didn't take a genius to connect the dots. Dad checked his watch, his worry growing. Mom, strangely serene, kept saying, everything's fine, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then the garden gates swung open. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Vanessa stood there, radiant in my wedding dress, the silk organza glowing in the golden evening light. The intricate embroidery, skylines, waves, books told the story of a love I now feared was a lie. Beside her stood Ethan, his hand clasped in hers, his thumb tracing circles on her skin, a gesture I'd thought was ours alone. His face held a mix of defiance and guilt. Surprise! Vanessa called, her voice sharp with triumph. We're eloping tonight. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Mom rushed to her, beaming. She looks perfect in white, she declared loudly, adjusting a lace sleeve. I always knew this would happen. Ethan avoided my gaze, mumbling, I didn't mean to hurt you, Danica. Vanessa's smile was smug. The heart wants what it wants, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. My legs felt like stone as the world spun. Decades of being second best, my achievements ignored, my possessions taken, crystallized in this moment. My sister in my dress, with my fiancé and my mother cheering her on. Tara grabbed my arm, her body trembling with rage on my behalf. How long? I asked, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. Vanessa and Ethan exchanged a glance. Does it matter? She said, expecting me to crumble. It does to me, I pressed. A few months, Ethan admitted, staring at the ground. We tried to fight it. So all those late nights, I asked. He nodded, unable to look at me. And the dress, the forged note? Vanessa shrugged. I knew you'd never let me borrow it. It fits me better anyway. Mom stepped forward, frowning at my calm demeanor. Aren't you going to react, Danica? Scream, cry something. Vanessa leaned in, eager for my breakdown. Yeah, tell us how you feel about me taking your perfect life. I took a deep breath, a strange calm settling over me. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I'm glad you're all here. It saves me time. Vanessa's smile faltered. I've suspected something for weeks, I continued, my voice carrying across the silent garden. Stealing my dress, though, that's a new low, Vanessa. Creative, I'll give you that. Ethan shifted, letting go of her hand. Danica, let's talk privately. Oh, we're way past private, I said, my smile unwavering. You chose to make this public, so let's keep it that way. I turned to the guests, their faces frozen in shock. Sorry for the drama, especially for those who traveled, but this'll be worth your time. Mom huffed. Stop making a scene, Danica. You've always been so dramatic when things don't go your way. Just accept Vanessa and Ethan are in love. In love, I said, raising an eyebrow. Let's see what Ethan's love looks like. I turned my phone toward the crowd and played a video. Ethan's voice filled the garden, speaking to a woman who wasn't me or Vanessa. I can't wait to ditch this wedding charade, he said. Once I get access to Danica's business accounts, we're set, baby. His face drained of color. Vanessa stepped back, her smugness replaced by confusion. What is this? She demanded. This is the real Ethan, I said calmly. The one who's been playing both of us while stringing along his real girlfriend, Serena. I swiped to an email chain between Ethan and his lawyer, plotting to claim half my design business after the wedding. Did he mention his plans for your future, Vanessa? Or were you just a pawn to distract me? I showed more evidence. Bank statements with suspicious transfers, photos of Ethan with Serena on dates that matched his late nights, texts where he manipulated Vanessa's emotions to keep her hooked. I hired a private investigator weeks ago, I explained. He uncovered 2 affairs and financial fraud. Dad stepped forward, his face dark with fury. You stole from my daughter. Ethan backed away, stammering, it's all a misunderstanding. Explain it to the police, I said. I filed a report on the embezzlement yesterday. Vanessa stood trembling in my dress, tears spilling. You acted so normal, she whispered. I learned from you, I replied. Years of watching you manipulate taught me patience. I turned to Mom, her smugness now tinged with shame. As for you saying Vanessa looks better in white, we all know that's been your stance since we were kids. But I don't need your approval anymore. 2 police officers appeared at the garden entrance. Ethan Daniels, one called. We need to speak with you about financial irregularities. As they led him away, Vanessa sank to the ground, the dress pooling around her. The crowd was silent, some guests filming, others whispering. Tara hugged me tightly. You're incredible, she whispered. I looked at the garden, the roses glowing in the dusk, and felt a weight lift. I'd lost a fiancé and a dress, but I'd gained something far greater, my own strength, unshakable and mine alone.